you can copy everything that I'm going to say today and know for sure that you're doing a plank in the correct way. So it's in your best interest that if you can do this move, to get it down and do it correctly. The main goal of a plank is core strength and stability. Fast, quick cues for you to wrap up, take to go, share with a friend. Woo! Hey, what is up? Kate the Great here. Welcome back to my channel. It's really nice to have you here. Today I'm going to go over planks, everything involving planks on the forearms, up on the hands, planks, planks, planks. We all love them, maybe not. I love them and I love to see them. They are an insanely great exercise, so if you can do them, I need you to be doing them. What I find and what I see is so many people doing them in not the most ideal ways. There's a lot of compensations going on, and for whatever reason that may be, whether it's too challenging for someone to do and they're compensating within the set because it becomes too hard, or they're just uneducated on how to actually do it, or the last one, or they'll see someone who's not doing it in the best way and then just copy what they're doing. That's where I step in, because you can copy everything that I'm going to say today and know for sure that you're doing a plank in the correct way, or the most ideal way. I'm first going to go over compensations or ways that are not as ideal, and then the cues to correct it. And then I'm going to go over my surefire way to set up a plank, execute it, hold it, and keep the most ideal way throughout the entire set, whatever the set is for you. And lastly, at the end, I will give you the quick cues for you to follow, and keeping your head for when you're doing the plank and you need the cues to be done at a faster pace. Before we get into it, please give this video a like and subscribe down below, because it really helps to support me and my channel, and so you can always come back and hang out with me again for workouts, tips and tricks, and vlogs. Big compensations in regards to the hip area is your hips either being too high up in the air, so you create like kind of a mountain looking thing, or the opposite direction, your hips being too low, so they swoop down. You want to basically be level, and you need to be able to have your hips high enough for you to tuck your pelvis under. If you are too low, you won't really be able to actually tuck your pelvis. And that will go for both being on your hands and your forearms. Another compensation is hand placement or forearm placement. People will place their hands generally too far forward, where you think, oh, I'm putting them under my shoulders, but people really actually put them under their eye level. It is more ideal to have your wrists right underneath your shoulders. So when you are setting it up, make sure it is a straight line down from your shoulder all the way to your wrist. Another thing playing off of that is people not gripping their fingers into the floor when you are in that plank on your hands. You need to grip, grip, grip. That's going to ensure that you have minimal pain in your wrist as you are holding that plank. That is a huge complaint that I always hear from people when doing a plank, that their wrists hurt from holding too long. But if you grip your fingers and create a nice stable position, you will either get reduced pain or no pain at all. When you are gripping your hands into the floor, I want you to think of the floor being two jars of peanut butter or jelly or whatever you have a jar full of. You're going to think of twisting open those jars. So think of gripping your fingers into the floor and twisting open, just like you're trying to screw the top off of the jar. Another cue for you to think is to aim for the inside of your elbows to face forward. That cue is going to help scoop your shoulder blade underneath your armpit. So again, think of screwing open the jars, aiming for the inside of your elbows to be facing forward. Staying in the same realm, when you are doing a plank on your forearms, a lot of people will have their hands very close together, like holding hands with themselves, or be in a internal rotated position. It is more ideal to have your hands further apart, so having your wrists and your elbows in a straight line going forward as opposed to closer together. It is more ideal to have your forearms and your shoulder girdle externally rotated, so I like to think palms up, That will keep your shoulders in a nice stable position. Continuing with the upper body, a lot of people will sink down and have their head protruding forward or their head hanging down and your chest slumped down towards the floor. You need to constantly push your chest away from the floor, push your head away from the floor, and make sure you are not looking up ahead of you. Trust me, nothing is going on up in front of you. And if it is, let it stay there and you can look at it after. I need you to be looking down at the floor. That will keep your head and your neck nice and neutral all the way down to your hips. Pushing your chest away from the floor will also allow your shoulder blades to wrap around and underneath the sides of your rib cage and your armpit area. That will also keep your shoulders in a nice stable position along with everything else that I've already mentioned. And by default, with your shoulder blades being in a better position, that will help reduce the chances or get rid of the winging of the scapula. You want to think of pushing your shoulder blades away from the spine as much as possible. And lastly, in regards to your torso core area, a lot of people will have their rib cage flared and they will arch their lower back. You want to have your pelvis tucked nice and tight, and by default that tucking of the pelvis is going to squeeze the glutes, so your glutes are going to fire and your core will brace as well. With pulling your rib cage down towards your hips, you are also getting your upper core to fire, or the upper region of your abdominals, keeping a nice locked position for your entire core torso area. That's going to help keep your core actually firing, which is the entire point of this entire exercise. If you are not working your core, the plank essentially becomes a little bit pointless because the main goal of a plank is core strength and stability. Alrighty, moving into the setup and execution of the plank. I'm first going to go through a plank on your hands. So you're going to set yourself up in a quadruped position. You're going to have your knees underneath your hips. You're going to place your hands underneath your shoulders. I like to grip my fingers first and then shift myself forward. So again, make sure your wrists are right underneath your shoulders. You're going to push your chest and your face away from the floor, wrapping the bottom of your shoulder blades underneath your armpits. Try to tap into the muscles that are firing right underneath there. Double checking to make sure you are pushing your face away from the floor. Try to aim for a double chin. Make sure your head doesn't drop or hang down. From there, you're going to push your rib cage down, almost like you're doing an abdominal crunch, and you're going to tuck your pelvis under. One leg will go back at a time, and then you're going to lock everything in again. So tucking, crunching, getting a good core brace, gripping your fingers into the floor, pushing your chest and your head away. And there you go. That is a plank on your hands, how to get there and how to hold it. Moving into a forearm plank, it is essentially the same thing except a little bit different, obviously. So you're going to start in the same position as we were before, a quadruped position on your hands and your knees. You're going to drop your hands down to your forearms, and again, if you can have your palms facing up, that is more ideal. Aim for your wrists to be in the same lane as your elbow, pointing forward. Aiming for nice 90-degree angles of your elbows, you're going to push yourself again away from the floor, wrapping your shoulder blades around the sides of your rib cage and underneath your armpit, like I had cued to you earlier. You're going to push your face away from the floor, crunch your rib cage down, tuck your pelvis under. One leg again will go back at a time and then lock everything in again. And there is your forearm plank. And here we are at the end with your fast, quick cues for you to wrap up, take to go, share with a friend. So we're going to start again with the hand plank. Starting in the quadruped position, fingers gripped into the floor. Push your chest and your face away from the floor. Crunch your rib cage, tuck your pelvis under, one leg back at a time, squeeze your booty, squeeze your core, and then continue to go through those checkpoints the entire time. Moving into the forearm plank, starting in the same position, palms facing up, forearms on the floor. Push your chest and your face away from the ground. Crunch your rib cage, tuck your pelvis, one leg back at a time, squeeze your booty, squeeze your core, constantly push your chest and your face away. Hands as far away from each other as possible. Hold that position, continue to go through those checkpoints the entire time, and that is the forearm plank. Woo! And that is it. We are all done. I know that was a lot to take in, a lot of cues, a lot of checkpoints to soak up. Make sure to keep this video handy in case you ever have to come back, because the plank is so prominent in so many different programs. I mean, it's in my program and all my clients' programs because it's such an essential move. And of course, I only went over the basic static plank. There are so many different variations to do. And then the plank is a basis for so many other moves like a push-up or anything like that. So it's in your best interest that if you can do this move, to get it down and do it correctly. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye! And quick little cues in front of you. No. Wait, that's not a good thing. I have to figure out a different way. How do I say that? So again, make sure your wrists. So aim for your wrists. Why do I have so much trouble saying that word?